In the moments I included for August 13th in my book, Losing Linda May, a Cancer Caregiving Memoir, I find my mom in a state that's really alarming to me. A few days prior, she had successfully had a craniotomy and was recovering really well. Immediately following the procedure, her disposition was great, and we all were feeling really optimistic about the prospect of her getting out of the hospital sooner rather than later. But when I arrived back in Omaha, Nebraska, after having been away for a few days, I find her in a dark room watching the Home Shopping Network, not using any of her devices, all of which was completely unusual. Then her behavior was even weirder. She wasn't particularly responsive to me. She wasn't answering my questions very well. She wasn't even really looking at me. She was just kind of staring off at the television, but not really at the television. And so I started to get worried, but they had removed her Hickman line in preparation for her leaving the hospital. So I thought, well, maybe there was some sedation involved and she's just still kind of reconciling with whatever drugs they gave her. However, the nurse and the medical assistant assured me that whatever they gave her for the removal wasn't anything that would be like general anesthesia, where she would have these lingering side effects that would put her into this type of state. And they said that maybe she was just tired. She is still recovering from a craniotomy, which is such a major procedure. And I'm like, okay, that makes logical sense. I'll let it lie. But my alarm just kept gradually growing because as I brought her back food from the cafeteria, she's not really eating very well. Then the night nurse came in and he did a neurology check, which she passed, but definitely not with flying colors. She was still a little off with her responsiveness. And then after it, he asked where she lived. And I think it was just a genuine question that he was just trying to make conversation with her. And she said Janesville, Wisconsin, which is somewhere we hadn't lived for nearly 2 decades. So it was a major red flag to me. I expressed my concern. It starts to escalate the situation. So he reaches out to the neurology PA who was on rotation at the time. She thinks I'm being an oversensitive caregiver. It's written all over her face, but I insist that my mom have a CT scan and she begrudgingly obliges. My mom is having a terrible reaction to the idea of having a CT scan because she was kind of mishandled a few days before. And when she comes back and we get the results, it turns out that the subdural hematoma is rapidly refilling and she needs to have an emergency craniotomy ASAP. By this point, my mom was not responsive to me or any of the medical providers. I think what was happening in her brain and the shock of this new occurrence and setback and just that colossal blow that she is not going to be leaving the hospital again just put her into a basically comatose state where she had just completely resigned to the world. So when it came time to make the decision on whether or not to have the emergency craniotomy, it had to come down to me signing all the consent forms for the procedure, which I was legally allowed to do because at the beginning of my mom's stem cell transplant, she signed over the right to make decisions to me and my dad if there was ever a situation where she could not sign herself. I remember receiving that document over a month prior and just thinking it was an unnecessary precaution because one, my dad would always be around, so I really wouldn't ever have to make any decision like that. And two, it just didn't feel like anything would ever arise over this course of this hospitalization that would actually warrant me to use this new privilege. But here I was, a 26-year-old with my dad 5 hours away, so there was no time for him to get to the hospital to be able to sign this form before they needed to have the operation. So I had to be the one to sign the document and say that, yes, you, the medical team, can reopen my mom's skull again and then drain more blood from her brain. Obviously, I didn't waver when I was signing the document. Everyone was telling me that this was a necessity. So of course I'm going to sign and get my mom on the path to recovery because they said that if they left it unchecked that my mom could have permanent brain damage or she could even die. So what else would I do? But as we're waiting for the procedure to happen and my mom is completely checked out and she's not even responding to me in any way as I'm trying to soothe her concerns and tell her it's going to be okay. And then immediately following the procedure, she just seems to be in such a tortured condition and feeling so horrible. And I put all that blame on myself because I was the one who subjected her to this procedure. It was my doing. I was the one who caught the situation. I'm the one who flagged it to her medical providers. And then I signed that document granting them permission. And as much as everyone was telling me that I made the right choice, that I did what I had to do, I couldn't help but shoulder that burden and feel that gravity and the weight of that decision pressing down on me at all times. I had caused my mom so much suffering. I was the one who delayed her from getting out of the hospital further. Even then, I knew it wasn't rational to be having those thoughts because the subdural hematoma could have gone unchecked and then basically crushed her entire brain or killed her. So I knew it was the right decision, but I also had this ownership over the situation and then the subsequent fallout that happened in the following days where her condition was just so terrible. And I felt like I was failing as a caregiver. You break down the name, caregiver. I'm supposed to be the one who's providing her comfort and support and love and making her feel better, but I just made her feel a million times worse. And I know I essentially saved her life by making that decision, but she could have very easily died on the operating room table. And that would have been fully on me because we would not have known that she was just going to die from cancer anyway. So I would have been the one who made the choice and then ultimately killed my mom. Thank God that didn't happen in that moment. I would be a complete wreck to this day. I would have so much guilt about that decision, all because I was granted the privilege to be able to sign a document that says, make a life or death decision for your mother. While I don't have any statistics to back this up, I am sure that there is at any given time a caregiver having to make a similar type of decision for their loved one. It's such a big responsibility to carry with so many consequences. When I received the call from my mom about 4 months prior when she let me know that the cancer had metastasized to her brain and spinal cord, and I decided to be a primary caregiver for her and relocate home to fulfill that role, I did not think that this would ever be one of my responsibilities. I didn't think I would ever have her life in my hands. I share this not to caution anyone from becoming a primary caregiver for their loved one. Of course not. I'm trying to provide awareness that I didn't have when I stepped into the role, that you may be faced with a situation where you have to make a decision on behalf of your loved one and you will not know the outcome at that time. It will either be life-saving or it could be life-ending. The next video I'll be releasing will be on August 16th and I'll be talking about feeding tubes. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book is in the description and I will see you all then.